Mm-hmm.
Are you okay?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, no worries, Kayla.
Hello, Camilla. Hello, Harish. And hello, methane output. Got it.
Thursday. Very tired Thursday for me. I'm exhausted. It's been a long day.
I was kind of tired today, but honestly, I'm doing good right now. I have the day off tomorrow. I'm very excited about it.
All right, we got one person to carry the stream then.
Yes. Well,
Hey,
I would hope
Brandon.
that the person who's reading would not be tired.
That's true.
There we go. Hello, Braden. Hi. Hey.
So I saw an article today, and I know it's getting to the point where Harry Potter's been in the media for a very long time, and all those, top 5 Harry Potter things are kind of running out.
Yeah.
I saw an article today where they did top 5 Harry Potter library scenes.
Nice.
I just felt like that's kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel there.
That is reaching pretty hard. That is a reach.
I didn't actually look at the article,
Oh,
but
I was waiting for what they were gonna choose.
well, no, I was gonna ask you, what was your top 5 favorite library scenes?
In Harry Potter?
Oh, I forgot to change the resolution on the stream. Oh well.
Are there even 5? Mike is gonna get a rabbit this weekend.
Hey, that's awesome!
A fuzzy lop. Yay! Oh, thank you, Braden. Favorite library scene? I have to think about that.
Right, it's like I said, scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
I know.
Maybe when they find Hermione petrified in the library.
They don't find her petrified in the library.
Oh, you know what? Actually, oh yeah, that's right. They don't. She was coming from the library.
I think one of the good ones, one of the best ones, is in the first book when Harry sneaks in the restricted section and opens the screaming book.
That's the only memorable scene. At least memorable for me.
Hello from hellishly hot Florida. Must wear an oven mitt to handle the steering wheel.
Oh Jesus,
Lord,
I'm sorry.
That sucks. Well, we're gonna get a heat wave next week. We're supposed to, anyway.
Yeah, but not as hot as
Florida. Well, no, I'm
Florida
sure it's
was
not going to be that
degrees today.
Ugh. Methane output, I'm assuming it would be books, but I'm not sure.
I guess whichever one you want. There's so few, we're not going to dictate.
Oh, Mike says his favorite is Harry speculating that Mr. Filch and Madame Pince are dating.
Ooh,
that does happen in the library. Yeah, that's true.
Where it all comes together.
I'm trying to think of other ones.
It's not a lot. There's 5 scenes total in the library.
I don't know why. I think part of it is just that
there's the other scene where Harry overhears the Hufflepuffs.
Yep.
Talking
and then, shit about him. 90% of it is Hermione running off to the library, and not Harry and Ron. There's the scene where they go and they're doing research about dragons.
It's true.
To try to figure out what to do about the dragon. And
doesn't Dobby come bring Harry the gillyweed in the library? Because doesn't Harry fall asleep in the library researching?
He falls asleep in the library, and Dobby shows up.
Yeah. There's another good moment.
Yeah, he says Harry has to go find his Wheezy.
Yeah.
Because Harry falls asleep in there, and he wakes up late to the task, and Dobby is like, hey, you gotta go, bud. We got stuff to do.
And you're Wheezy.
Yeah, gotta go get your Wheezy.
Yeah. I mean, that was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Because that Dobby in it.
Well, yeah.
I'm gonna go get some coffee.
And obviously, in the 7th book, we don't have any library scenes.
Well, with the movie, I'm pretty sure they passed through the library at some point.
Maybe. Oh de do da. 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 Yeah, there really aren't tons and tons of them. There's one talking about Sirius with Ginny Weasley. Is there? Is there, Lola? Is there, Lola? Well, I mean, in 7 is an entire library because Hermione's bag is a library. Yeah, okay. Method Output asks if we've ever read Aragon. Sorry, off topic. I read the first 2 books. Biggs has not read them at all, right? You didn't read any of them, correct? Yeah. I've only read the first 2. Excuse me. I kind of want fresh coffee. But I can wait. In Order of the Phoenix, Kayla says. Harry's talking to Ginny about Sirius. I mean, that is possible. I believe you, Kayla. Oh, Lola, you're furry. You're very fuzzy, Adoda. Oh, I see what you're doing there. Not a fan of Aragon, but it's impressive the guy was 15 when he started writing them, says Mike. It is impressive that he was so young when he published them. Not to be that person, but I do speculate and wonder if he would have gotten them published if his parents didn't own a publishing house.
Well, from what you said, the first one was very good.
It is good. Yeah, the first book was decent. I just didn't like them enough to keep going.
So I assume, yes, he probably would have been published.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't have been as easy for him, but
right.
The first one was good. It's the only problem with young authors. I mean, if it takes you any more than like 5 or 6 years to finish your series, are you really going to write about what you started writing about when you were 14?
Yeah. Well, I've read that that's why some people don't like the later books, is that he wrote the first one when he was 15, and by the time he was done, he was in his 20s.
Yeah.
And everything shifted.
By the time you're in your mid-20s, I mean, 90% of the stuff that you found interesting as a teenager no longer really matters.
Well, and maybe his writing style just shifted and changed a lot, too. And maybe by that point, he was just no longer really interested in finishing the series either. We don't really know. I don't know enough about the series to speculate on that or not. I really don't know. Like I said, I only read the first 2 books, and I don't really remember them very well. I remember the beginning of book 1. That's really about it. And like bits and pieces of book 2, but I don't really remember them very well.
Okay. Well, I don't remember them at all.
Because you've never read them.
Yes.
So there's that. I read the first one like 10 years ago, and I started them again yesterday. Oh, very nice.
Nice.
Always good to revisit a favorite series. Very nice.
The one young adult series that we need to start is the Percy Jackson series.
We did say we were going to start the Percy Jackson books, yes. So we will get on that.
Got the collection, got to read them.
Got the collection, got to read them. Neither of us have ever read them, so it'll be an interesting adventure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You won't have to hold back any spoilers from me.
No, I won't have to hold back any spoilers.
Although you probably will. You always seem to have to look stuff up.
No, I won't do it this time.
Okay.
I won't do it with these books.
I was going to say.
Please start Lord of the Rings after Game of Thrones.
Well, we were going to start it right after this next book. I think there's maybe 20 chapters left in this
Yeah, we have maybe like 250 pages left of A Game of Thrones. Maybe 300 pages. We're almost done.
I don't know. I haven't even looked at the book so long.
We're on like page...
Just been editing whatever you send me.
We're on page like 697, and there's like 950 pages in the book, something like that. So we're almost done with a Clash of Kings. So once we're done with a Clash of Kings, we will foray into other materials and do a Storm of Swords on the side. Ooh, that was not nice. Because yes, everyone wants us to read Lord of the Rings too.
Do we start with Lord of the Rings or do we start with The Hobbit?
We got to start with The Hobbit. Come on now. That's how you do it.
Okay.
We got to start with The Hobbit. And then we can't read Lord of the Rings and then read The Hobbit after. That's just silly.
That's how it was written.
But it's not chronological order.
Well, no. But release order.
Are we reading them in release order? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that way, like, new readers can have the same experience as first-time readers.
What do you guys think? Should we read The Hobbit first or last? I read them in chronological order.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I read The Hobbit first.
Okay. Well, I haven't. Because I read Lord of the Rings, I've never read The Hobbit.
Oh.
So...
You ever read The Hobbit?
No.
Oh, you're missing out.
I watched the movies.
That's not the same.
I know. It was always on my to-read list, I just never got to it.
Oh, the book is great. I read Lord of the Rings first, but have no preference. Chip the glasses and break the plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins ate. So carefully with the plates.
You just want to sing those songs, don't
you? I do want to sing that song. I like the Bilbo Baggins song. You know Leonard Nimoy recorded a song about Bilbo Baggins?
No.
Yep.
Did not know that.
Yep. The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins.
Was it any good? The song?
It's very 70s folk sounding.
Oh, yeah.
It's entertaining. Bilbo.
It doesn't sound like something I'd like.
You probably would.
Cool they did it, I guess.
Kayla says she has to read The Hobbit for next term, so we should read The Hobbit first.
Oh, man. What the heck? What is with people getting to read these awesome books in school? I mean, I read some good ones, but...
Yeah, I know I read The Hobbit. It was the second time I'd read The Hobbit. I've read The Hobbit actually twice.
Like, I guess I appreciate my 9th and 10th reading list. Because looking back, I didn't know it at the time, but my teacher at the time, like, all of the books that she read, or we had to read for her, were all banned books. Like, that was the year I read 1984 Night, Of Mice and Men, Animal Farm, all those.
Jackson, it's fine. She's not that close to you.
And I did like all those books. But we never got to read, like, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings.
Right. I get that. Mike just wants to know when
Moby
we're
Dick.
going to read Shakespeare.
I'm totally down to read Othello. Othello is my favorite Shakespeare play.
I mean,
I think that was like the apex of his comedy. Othello was so great.
I mean, I would read some Shakespeare up in this piece. I'm down for some Shakespeare. I loved Hamlet. I absolutely loved Hamlet. And I loved I really like Julius Caesar too. I didn't really like Romeo and Juliet. Sorry, but I didn't. Except for the priest. Othello and Macbeth are tied for first for me. Macbeth is pretty good too.
They're like, I guess they're kind of tied because I can't. It's like comparing apples and oranges.
They're not the same flavor of story.
Comedy and tragedy.
Plus, Macbeth has the element of the mystical in there too.
Yeah.
You got magic, kind of the element of. Yeah.
Macbeth so I agree. They're up there. They're tied. I dare not compare those two.
What, you egg? Stabs him. I think if we were to do Shakespeare, we would have to do it like together.
I'm down.
That's something we could probably actually get Noel to do.
Yeah.
He's a Shakespeare junkie.
I know. We gotta get him back on the channel.
We do gotta get him back on the channel.
I haven't even talked to that guy in a hot minute.
I know.
He's been so busy.
I know. I bite my thumb at thee. Shakespeare's great. Lex, I would love to hear your rendition of Macbeth's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow speech. Oh, pressure. Pressure.
Gonna have to rehearse that one.
I might have to do a little research to do that. Might have to do a little research to get that situated. We're talking about Shakespeare here. That's
I think the only reason,
I mean, I'm down to do it. Everyone's going to be Scottish.
I mean, we could do it the same how we did Romeo and Juliet in my English class in 10th grade. Was everyone like paired up, or there was like groups of 3, and you got a scene from Romeo and Juliet, and you had to build the set and act it out.
Oh.
Yep. So we all took turns going up, and that's how we
did Shakespeare.
Yeah. That's how we did Romeo and Juliet. We did like Othello, where we just kind of got a big circle and we all read parts. We all got our own part and just read it.
That was how we always did
Romeo and Juliet. We actually like built the set and
we never did that. Every time we read Shakespeare, everyone in the class got assigned a character and they just played the character. When we read Hamlet, I was Hamlet. Thank God, because half my class couldn't read and he's the main character, and I did not want to listen to somebody who couldn't read play the main character. It would have been torture. And then when we did Romeo and Juliet, I was the narrator and the botanist. Well, he's not a botanist. The priest, monk, that guy. I can't think of his name. I don't remember either.
It's been so long since I read Shakespeare.
But it was always, we all sat in class and everybody was a character, and you just read it.
That's how we did.
And then we watched a movie version of it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We went to go see the play Othello.
That's
which
cool.
was actually really great.
The
actors in Othello were hilarious too.
Oh, I bet.
Like a couple times they kind of like, they didn't break character, but they interacted with the audience and stuff too. Still ad-libbing.
Little fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
We watched, when we did Romeo and Juliet, we watched the Franco Zeffirelli version of Romeo and Juliet, and then we watched the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. And then when we read Hamlet, we watched the Kenneth Branagh Hamlet. And I liked it. It was good. I liked the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet better than the Franco Zeffirelli version because the Baz Luhrmann version actually picked up on Shakespeare's humor, whereas the Franco Zeffirelli one was just so uptight and like classic theater. Instead of, no, Shakespeare's actually really funny and there's a lot of jokes in there that are really very crude, and you're just making it too stuffy. Yes, Gilderoy Lockhart did Hamlet. Gilderoy Lockhart is a big Shakespeare fan.
I didn't really care for Shakespeare until Othello because I always saw it as, that uppity classical play, and then Othello was just like, oh, he is funny. Like, there's one point, it's like in the first scene or something. I can't remember who says it. Someone says that they're making the beast with two backs with their mother or something. And it like hit me. Beast with two backs. Oh. I was like,
that's a your mom joke. Yeah. That's what I mean. Shakespeare's full of that stuff. And people don't, I just don't think they realize that it's like everywhere. Even in like the tragedies, like those jokes are still in there. Yeah. Shakespeare. Now that we've gone on a Shakespeare tangent for a hot minute, we have a lot of requests. I guess we have to read a lot of material.
I'm totally down to do the Shakespeare stuff. Yeah, it'd be fun to act out.
Oh yeah, I'm down to read some Shakespeare. We need at least another person to play some of the roles.
Oh, we'll hit up Noel. We'll go from there.
Yeah, we got to see if he's available to read some Shakespeare.
We'll have to bring a new bibliophile on.
Yeah, maybe someone will volunteer to read Shakespeare with us. That'd be great.
Is Dan in here? Dan was talking about doing a collab.
I haven't seen him tonight. I haven't seen him.
Oh. But either way.
Last time in All the Young Dudes, it was Christmas. And then what happened?
Was it Christmas?
Yeah, because the full moon fell on Christmas.
Oh.
And then...
I don't recall what happened last time. Did we stream last Thursday? Yeah, we did. I feel like it's been a long time.
It feels like a long time, yeah. Oh! Diagon Alley exploded.
Oh, that's right. And James and Lily were in the place that exploded, the Quidditch shop.
Yeah.
And they wanted to end on a cliffhanger and suspense because they may have died.
But it's Lily and James. Yeah. That was what happened last time.
I mean, if this didn't follow Lupin into his teaching years, I might think that this was like the twist, alternate universe where Harry Potter never existed and Voldemort just went on doing what he was doing and took over or something.
What do you think life would be like if Voldemort took over?
For us, it would be pretty terrible.
Well, we live in the United States, so...
You think he would have stopped at the UK?
Alright, fair enough.
Would have spread out.
Oh my god, he would have funded Trump.
Not getting political here, stop it.
That wasn't political.
Anyways.
That's a hypothetical fact.
You would have taken over and all us muggles would be extinct. Or living underground again.
So Lily and James did not die in a car crash? Alright, are we ready? Lola, are you ready? Oh, I think Lola's ready.
Do you want to hand me coffee?
Did you make it?
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're doing. What you want. Got you.
Yes. Ow. It had to, percolate a little bit.
Here you go.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to want some of that. But first...
I brought it over.
But first... Chapter 125. 7th Year. Christmas. Part 2. The ground shook and Remus squeezed his eyes shut, belly down on the cobblestones. Everything after that moment, seeing Lily and James's heads turn before the building in front of them exploded, everything after that made so little sense. It was all too slow or too fast, and Remus found he did not react in his usual way. He was weak, frightened, his comprehension muddled. He felt stunned. They raised their heads, he and Sirius, much too long after it all gone quiet, when people round were already standing up and shouting or crying. Someone was definitely crying, a woman. That seemed loudest of all. And someone laughing too, a thin, razor-sharp cackle in the distance, pure joy. Diagon Alley looked like a bomb site. The shops which had been destroyed were like broken teeth in a gaping maw. Strange blue patches of sky were something else where something else should be. It was hard to see much on ground level, but they squinted through the settling dust further down the street toward Gringotts, where most of the noise seemed to be coming from. "You two!" a woman hissed, coming from behind, picking through the rubble, her wand raised. "Get back! Behind me!" She stalked ahead. Her robes were deep maroon, an Aura's uniform. "James!" Sirius croaked, his voice strange and strangled with terror. He scrambled to his feet, his robes all dusty and his hair full of soot. He half ran, half stumbled toward the hole in the sky where the Quidditch supply shop had stood minutes before. "Sirius, no!" Remus coughed, weakly following him, feeling stupid and heavy. "James!" Sirius was shouting, but so many people were shouting. "Sirius!" Remus coughed again, trying to keep up, but he'd bruised his hip when he'd hit the ground, and his ears were still ringing, and his eyes were starting to go blurry as he wiped away tears with dusty wrists. "Sirius!" "Mudblood's out!" Sorry. "Mudblood's out!" Remus dropped to his knees, covering his ears, and he was not the only one. The voice seemed to be right behind him, inside his head. It was everywhere. The crowd was silent, finally, as everyone stared around, blinking, looking for the owner of the horrible, insidious voice. Whatever was going on, it was happening further away. Remus could smell magic now, and see beams of light firing through the dust clouds surrounding Gringotts. He could smell Moody and... Ferox? Maybe him. And the Death Eaters. Some of them he recognized, others he didn't. But they were there, and there were a lot of them. Where was Sirius? The ruins of the shop which had stood before them was still bleeding smoke, and Sirius had wandered straight into it. The idiot. Gritting his teeth, and with not a little pain, Remus pushed himself to his feet again. He had to find them. The shouts of battle were getting louder, more desperate. The woman who had ordered him and Sirius back had joined in, and Remus's conscience told him he ought to go and help. But James and Lily and Sirius... "Mors Mordre! Mors Mordre!" the same voice spoke, close and far away. The smoke filling the street seemed to rise and darken, expanding and swirling upward to form an enormous snake entwined with a screaming, hollow-eyed black skull. "It's him!" a man near Remus shouted. "It's you-know-who!" "Silencio!" Someone else hexed him into quiet. An odd stillness. More flashes. Blue, green, yellow, red, and then... Crack, crack, crack! They were getting away. For the first time, Remus thought to withdraw his wand, fumbling about in his borrowed robes for it. As he did, his fingers brushed against something else. Smooth and heavy. His fingers closed round his pocket watch, and he wrenched it out, prizing it open quickly and saying aloud, "Sirius Black!" The needle didn't even wobble, but pointed forward immediately, and Remus followed it toward the ruin of the shop. "Sirius! Sirius!" "Moony!" A hand grabbed his shoulder, and he whipped round desperately. "James!" James hugged him fiercely, and Remus didn't even think about how unusual it was. He was just so grateful and relieved he hugged him back. Lily appeared at his shoulder, pale-faced, her hair falling out of its ponytail, clothes smudged with ash. There was a cut just under her hairline, dark blood oozing down into her left eyebrow. And Sirius, too. Thank God, thank God, thank God. "I lost you," Remus said hoarsely once James let him go. One of the lenses in his glasses was shattered. "I'm sorry," Sirius said, sounding just as awful. "We better go and help," James said, shaking both their shoulders. "The battle's finished," Remus said. "They ran away. Disapparated, most of them. How did you two—" He stared at Lily and James, still not quite believing his eyes. "Frank," Lily said, sounding so much smaller than Remus had ever heard her. James wrapped an arm round her. "Frank's an aura. He used a knockback jinx on us right before the shop was hit. Then Protego, I think. I didn't know what to do." Her eyes were filled with tears, and James wrapped his other arm round her, enveloping her completely. "I didn't either," Remus said, as if it would help. "Didn't even get my wand out." Sirius was gripping his, though. He looked dreadful, fierce as a demon, eyes full of hatred. "I'm going anyway. They might still need help," he said. Remus grabbed him by the shoulders, surprising even himself with his strength. "Don't you dare," he growled, meeting Sirius's eye. Something distinctly canine passed between them, then, and Remus almost thought they were actually going to fight, and that it would be a sort of a relief if they did. But of course James intervened. "Mooney's right," he said. "We ought to—" Crack. "Boys! Dad!" Fleamont Potter had arrived right next to James. He grabbed his son, then Sirius, then Remus, who'd recovered enough now to find the hugging all a bit much, and then stared with horror at what remained of Diagon Alley. His bushy eyebrows knit, and he addressed his son. "Are you okay? Your mother wants you back at the house immediately. She's been called to St. Mungo's. Otherwise she'd be here." "Shouldn't we stay and help?" James asked, looking troubled, still holding Lily tightly to his chest. What a bloody hero, Remus thought. He still had Sirius by the shoulders, gripping him hard because he couldn't hug him. Fleamont looked at James and seemed to grow a few inches with pride. He smiled. "No, son, it's all in hand. Moody's there, and Dumbledore's on his way. I just want you all home and safe before anything—" "No one is to leave," a man was shouting, cutting through the crowd and the rubble with an authoritative stride. "Not until they have been questioned by— Oh, hello, Monty. Didn't know you were here." "Amos," Mr. Potter nodded at the ministry official. "Got here as soon as I could. Taking the boys home. They were out shopping and got caught up." "That's so?" The official, Amos, came over to look at them all. "Names?" "Amos, is that really Names!" he repeated in a harder tone. "Well, you know James. You've known him since he was 5, for goodness sake," Fleamont tutted. "This is Miss Evans, I presume?" He glanced at Lily, who'd stopped crying but still looked very frightened. "Yes," she squeaked. "Lily Evans." "Evans?" Amos looked thoughtful. He pulled some parchment out of his pocket. Evans. Parents' names?" "You wouldn't know them," she said, her eyes darting between James and the official. "I'm Muggle-born." Amos looked down his nose at her again, then eyed James with a rude quirk of his eyebrow. "I see. Very well. And you two— Oh, ho, ho, I know you. You're the Black Heir." "Was," Sirius muttered. He shook himself free of Remus and shoved his hands in his pockets, adopting a sullen, irritable attitude which always appeared when his family was mentioned. Remus wished he could tell him not to do that. It didn't make him look any less guilty. "He's coming home with us, too," Fleamont said quickly. "Sirius has lived with us for well over a year now, and—" Come, Monty," Amos tutted. "The Black Heir? I'm not stupid, and neither are you. He'll have to be questioned." "Absolutely not!" Fleamont raised his voice. Remus had never heard him shout before. It was even more terrifying than a dark mark. "They're school kids, for Godric's sake!" "Plenty of school kids on their side, too, from what I hear," Amos said. "Plenty of blacks, too." "I'm not interested in that. You can speak with Dumbledore if you have to, but I'm responsible for these boys, and I'm taking them all home right now." "What about you?" Amos suddenly turned on Remus, who blinked. Sometimes he forgot that the Potters included him in their responsibilities. "Remus," he said, trying to be brave, but failing miserably. What if this man knows something? What if he knows I'm a werewolf? Lupin. Amos made a note, but asked no further questions. You're all to wait here while I speak with Dumbledore, he said pompously. Like hell we will, Fleamont snorted. If you want to go and interrupt Albus Dumbledore while he assists in the investigation of a terrorist attack for the sake of a few frightened teenagers, then... Amos! Someone, was it really Frank, shouted from the distance. Where the hell are you? We need you up here. It's Leo. The official turned sharply, and with a reluctant final glance at Sirius, he ran toward the voice. Mr. Potter leapt into action, taking no chances. Quick, boys. Are you all right to apparate? Miss Evans, probably best if you come with us for now. Lily nodded and James kissed her before they both disapparated together, hand in hand. Fleamont nodded at Sirius and Remus before vanishing with a loud crack himself. Remus looked at Sirius. Sirius looked at him too, still angry, still full of a hot desire for revenge. Oh no, Remus said firmly, then barely even thinking about it, grabbed Sirius's elbow hard and prepared to apparate with him. Sirius fought it, mid-turn. The stupid fool could have easily splinched them as he strained against Remus's spell, wanting only to stay where the fight was. But Remus was stronger. The air was full of fizzing, roaring, leftover magic, and Remus drank from it, overpowering Sirius with the sheer weight of his own determination. They arrived on the Potters' front porch with such force that their heads banged together and they wrenched apart, panting, feeling scorched. Fucking hell, Mooney, Sirius gasped, rubbing his elbow where Remus had grabbed him. I had to stop you, idiot. Remus bent forward, hands on his knees. He felt completely drained, but buzzing with it, nerves alight with static. James opened the door. Get inside, he said. Quickly. Sirius pushed past Remus without looking at him. Lily stayed for another hour or so, drinking cup after cup of tea, as Gully scuttled back and forth from the kitchen, wringing his little wizened hands and shaking his head woefully. Mr. Potter apologized profusely to Lily and hoped they would meet again soon under better circumstances, before locking himself away in his study. After that they sat in silence for most of the time, with only the occasional outburst from James or Sirius. Snape! Sirius ranted, pacing back and forth. We saw him in the bookshop. He threatened Mooney. He must have something to do with it. You don't know that, Lily said shakily, staring at the pattern of her teacup. Did anyone see any of them, though? No, James shook his head. Too busy trying to take cover. No, Lily shook her head. No, Remus said. Sirius looked up at him. Mooney, you smelled something. You told me, remember? Do you know who... Remus, you can smell people? Lily looked up, half shocked, half curious. Like a scent? Not like... It's just a wolf thing. Instinct. But I don't... Remus wished the ground would swallow him up. He could tell them. But he didn't want to break it to Sirius like this, not while they were furious at each other and frightened, and Lily and James were sitting right there. Mooney, Sirius said in a very low, dark voice that none of them had ever heard before. Tell me. Who? Remus looked at James desperately for help, but he was just staring back, waiting. Lily, too, her mouth slightly open. He looked at Sirius again and tried to hold his stare. I think Regulus was there. But lots of people were there, Sirius. Sirius threw his hands up and left the room in utter silence. Lily gave a very tired sigh. James, she said, I think I'd better go home. Mum and Dad will wonder. James insisted on apparating back with Lily, then returning by himself. Remus wished he hadn't. He didn't want to be left alone. Alone, it all came flooding back into his mind, as vivid as a cinema screen. The noise, the smoke, the utter terror, and shame. He had not acted. His first chance to prove to Dumbledore and Moody, and even Snivelus, that he was on the right side and willing to fight for it. but he'd never expected it to be like that. Had never considered that when the time came and you were on a battlefield with the only people you love in the world, all he'd wanted to do was to find them and run away. When James returned, he found Remus pacing, treading the same patch of carpet Sirius had been earlier. "Are you all right, Moony?" he asked nervously, taking slow step forward, arms up, as if Remus was an untamed beast. "I didn't do anything," Remus muttered, still pacing. I couldn't move, couldn't think." "Remus?" James kept speaking in that steady, friendly tone. It was more soothing than Remus wanted to admit. "Nobody could. It was horrible. It's the scariest thing that's ever happened." Remus stopped dead and stared at James. He gave a half smile and shrugged. "None of us knew what to do." "Sirius did." "Sirius did," Remus challenged. "He was the one who got up. He wanted to help." "Sirius never thinks, though, Moony. You know that." "Oi, up yours, Potter!" Sirius suddenly appeared in the doorway, arms folded. His eyes were a bit pink, but he didn't look angry anymore. Remus smiled at him hopefully behind James's back. Sirius smiled back reassuringly. "I was going to say," James laughed, "that's what makes you so brave, you wanker. You just want to rush in and help, even if it's the worst idea in the world." "Yeah, all right, it wasn't a good idea," Sirius said, sitting down on the sofa beside James. "At least you did something," Remus said. "At least you got up." "You got up too, Remus," Sirius said softly. "After you did," Remus shot back. "I was pathetic. How are we ever going to win this war if it's got to be like that? If I'm too scared to..." "I was scared too," Sirius said, looking up. "I'm not that bonkers. I was still bricking it, I mean. Fucking hell." "Don't," James said, running his hand through his hair, still gritty with rubble. "It took me so long to figure out what happened, and all I could think about was getting Lily somewhere safe. I thought I would just do anything to make sure she was safe." "There you are then," Sirius said firmly. "That's how we win it."
It's like Bran says. Or no, well, Eddard tells Bran. The only time a man can be brave, when you're scared.
Yep.
Oh, hi, Amber. Welcome. Yeah, this is a Marauders fanfic we're reading.
Mrs. Potter did not come back from St. Mungo's all night, but Fleamont stepped out of his office to tell the boys he'd spoken to her that she was all right before asking Gully to make him a sandwich and closing the door again. Peter came over, white and shaking. He'd heard the news. Apparently he had a cousin working for the Daily Prophet. There was no useful information, though. No death count yet. It hadn't been finalised. Peter stayed for supper, but James was the only one really able to keep up a proper conversation, and eventually Peter left. When Remus announced he wanted an early night, the other two shrugged and agreed to go out too. After showering and washing the dust and smoke out of his hair, he brushed his teeth in the cold, quiet bathroom and tried not to think about how odd it felt to be doing such normal things on an abnormal day. He could hear James and Sirius murmuring quietly in the next room, solemn, tense tones. He decided to leave them to it. Hours later, Remus was seriously regretting that decision. He couldn't sleep. He waited and waited for Sirius to come, until he realized that he must still be in with James and might not come at all. Remus lay on his back and tried to keep his thoughts from getting too loud. "This is war," he kept thinking. "This is what you agreed to. You promised Dumbledore. You promised your friends." Finally, in the small hours, when he was sick from tiredness and the first pink rays of sunrise were peeking round the curtains, his door opened. Sirius crept across the room with the stealth of a cat. "Remus," he whispered from the foot of the bed. Remus rolled over. "I'm here." Sirius practically flew at him, sliding in under the covers and burying his head under the duvet. They clung to each other and everything steadied itself. Remus felt calm at last. In a moment, Sirius moved slightly and whispered, "Tell me a secret. A nice one?" Remus paused. He kissed Sirius's hair. "I'm mental about you too."
Aw. Another cute moment.
Right.
Remus, though, almost falling back in his pity ways.
Yeah, he was on the edge there of
Yeah.
being broody and like.
I think James saw it too. Like, oh, not this again.
Yep.
Come on, Remus.
We're not gonna do the pity party thing right now when Lily and I almost got blown up.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't do anything. I'm so pathetic. I'm such a loser. No, no more broody Remus. We don't want to go back to that.
No, definitely not.
No more angst.
Regulus was there.
Regulus was
so,
there.
What do you think?
Snape was there.
Well, yeah. Well, we know he's the type of person to do that, so.
Wow, okay. All right.
Oh, come on. That's Snivelus. Yeah, no.
Yeah, who did it?
I guess now the question is, what is Sirius going to do? Him and his rash decision making.
Yeah, right. But that was very true. The whole like, well, when can a man be brave thing definitely popped up. Like, I think James really understands what's going on and how this actually worked.
James read Game of Thrones.
Yep. James knows about A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm gonna leave you some more.
I'm probably not gonna read any more. So.
And James says, all I wanted to do is keep her safe. All I wanted to do was protect the people that I cared about. And Sirius is like, that's how we win.
That's right.
Sirius understands.
The power of love
conquers all. It's true.
Sometimes.
I mean, it does in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
How did the name Snivelus develop? Snivelus is a nickname that James and Sirius and Lupin used to call Snape at school. And that is confirmed in the books. That happens in Snape's worst memory.
Yeah, that's canon.
Yep. They call him that when they...
Just on Half-Blood Prince, though, so...
Oh. But it was in that chapter. And that's in Order of the Phoenix that happens.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
So it's just a play on Severus, because that's Snape's first name. So Severus, they call him Snivelus. It's just a mean nickname.
Yeah, pretty much. Just...
like sniveling, like...
Yeah.
Right, Lola?
Sniveling little slime ball.
Yeah. That's the idea, anyway.
James and Sirius were bullies. That's why.
Yep. They were rude. Weren't they, Lola?
Moral of the story, bullies always get the girls.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Yep. That is the moral of the story, isn't it?
Well, I guess not really, because Harry got Ginny. Ron.
Yeah, Harry wasn't a bully, though.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying, so not really.
Yeah.
It was kind of mean to Draco Malfoy.
Yeah, but that was mutual.
That's fair, yeah.
That was pretty mutual. And really, I think it was more along the lines of...
to be
fair, I don't think it was necessarily that Harry got Ginny. I think it was that Ginny got Harry.
Okay, you got me there. That's true.
She was in
Harry did not go for that.
For a hot minute.
Yeah.
Took him a while to figure it out. But Ginny knew. Instantly. She knew.
I think Ginny was like, James, that's my future husband.
Yes. I do. I think she knew. Was Harry not a bully? I mean, he got bullied, but sometimes he really was mean to some people.
He was, but most of the people he was mean to were mean to him first, so it was like self-defense, and I don't know, I guess it's not really bullying when you're on like an even footing with someone and you like bully each other.
That's like rivalry.
Yeah.
Like him and Draco.
Him and Draco. I mean, he had Crabbe and Goyle to back him up, and then Harry had Ron and Hermione to back him up, so everything was kind of even.
I think initially it started out with Draco definitely being the bully, and as Harry grows, he pushes back more until it becomes more of a...
I think in a couple spots, Harry might push a little too far.
Yeah, but he doesn't do like what James and Sirius did. He doesn't do that stuff to people.
Yeah, he doesn't go out of his way to embarrass them.
No, he doesn't humiliate people at their own expense.
Yeah.
I kind of had the feeling that he bullied Dudley at the end, because Dudley was kind of smart enough to understand what Harry was saying, especially in order.
Wait, what?
When Harry, like, says things to Dudley. Like, great job, D. You know the days of the week now. Good for you.
But he definitely bullied him, but I mean, Dudley was also a jerk to him for a long time.
I don't even think Harry is really bullying Dudley at this point. I think Harry has been bullied by Dudley the majority of his life. Harry is just in... I think he's just doing what he can to get his jabs in at Dudley when he can do it. Mm. I think it's a different scenario when...
Well, I think...
He's been bullied by this kid your whole life.
That's true. But at the same time, I will say I think Harry was bullying him a little bit, because we're talking about even like a playing field. At that point, Dudley didn't do anything because he knew Harry had magic. So it was no longer like a even playing field.
Well, at that time, he knew Harry couldn't do magic outside of school.
But he didn't want to push it.
But he also, like, had his 4 friends always around him, too.
Yeah.
Gordon and Piers Polkiss and the other ones, because they all call him Big D.
But still. I think it was a little bullying, but I think it was justified bullying, because Dudley definitely bullied him for a long time.
I don't see Harry as so much being bullying to Dudley as standing his ground and pushing back.
Yeah, maybe. I guess it could go either way there. I don't blame Harry. I don't think he's a malicious person for doing it.
I also think that's pretty much what he's doing with Draco Malfoy. I don't think he's bullying Draco Malfoy. I think Draco Malfoy is trying to bully Harry, and Harry is standing up for himself and pushing back.
Yeah,
I don't think
what I was saying. Like, Draco is like a rivalry. It's even across the board. They're both just as powerful as each other.
Oh, well, Harry, I think it develops into a rivalry. I think it starts out in a bullying situation because Draco has the upper hand because he knows the world. Harry doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, Caps Lock Harry is kind of mean.
But it's understandable.
Yeah.
He is kind of mean. But he's never so mean as to say, "Oh, I see no difference."
Exactly. The biggest bully of the story, Snape. So I guess the bullies don't always get the girl. Oh.
No. Well, Katie said to me that she was talking to her husband, and her husband said, "Why doesn't Professor Sprout ever let Snape help out in the greenhouse?"
Why?
Because he can't keep his lilies alive.
Oh, man. Too soon? Maybe too soon. Oh, that's pretty great.
I've heard that one before, but still good. That's horrid. Sprout and Snape would be the love story I would want to see. I don't want to see that. That is wrong on so many levels. Ew. No. Not okay. Professor Sprout does not deserve that in her life. Not at all. She is a lovely person. She is well adjusted. She does not deserve the train wreck that is Severus Snape. No.
She's gonna see what she can sprout up tonight.
Oh, she deserves, like... I don't know how old Professor Sprout is. So I don't know, like,
old enough.
Is she Slughorn's age? Is she Snape's age? I think she's like older. Not that it matters, but she doesn't deserve Snape. No. Or no, Snape doesn't deserve her, I guess is how I would put it. She's lovely. She needs a nice, well-adjusted man. That is not Snape. That's not okay. She needs, like, Slughorn, maybe?
I could definitely see that.
Like, her and Slughorn would be nice. He would treat her very well. He would steal things out of her garden and it would be okay. She'd get him crystallized pineapples.
I was gonna say, she'd have to have just like a whole pineapple grove.
Just, yeah. For him. Long, black, greasy hair.
And hi, Dan. We're actually talking about you earlier. Glad you could make it.
Yes, we were. We did bring up Dan before. Excuse me.
Slughorn is way too old for Sprout. Okay, so yeah, maybe Sprout isn't that old.
Oh.
Slughorn, how old? I guess he is pretty old. That man is definitely up there.
Or maybe...
I would say he would be like, 50, 60, but in wizarding years, he's probably more like 80, 90.
I think another favorite pairing is Professor Sprout and Madam Hooch.
No, Slughorn would be really old. Because he taught Tom Riddle. And Voldemort is like 70-something.
That's true. Yeah, Slughorn's old. He's like up there with Dumbledore.
Yeah. Okay, he's way too old.
It's way too old for her. All right, so Slughorn and Madam Hooch.
Men,
Slughorn and Madam Hooch. That's my.
Slughorn could be your sugar daddy.
Or Professor Sprout and Madam Hooch. That's what I meant.
Professor Sprout and Madam Hooch.
Yes, they would be great together. Those two. That's who she should date. Slughorn's too old. Snape is too much of a hot mess. Madam Hooch. There's no drama surrounding that woman.
It's because she's never there for anything.
She's too busy in the greenhouses. hanging out with Sprout.
She's like in the first book, and then after that, in the next 6 books, I think she shows up once.
She referees a couple of Quidditch matches. That's her job.
Okay,
that's it.
Times.
Well, she doesn't have to show up in the rest of the books. Harry doesn't need to keep taking flying lessons.
That's true.
Everyone else probably does. What about Snape and Trelawney? He already spied on her. No, that is not good either. No.
Snape and Trelawney.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, she'd be seeing some bad things in his future.
I don't think Dumbledore would allow that. I think Dumbledore would intervene in that. If he had to, Dumbledore would just be like, this is not happening. For many reasons.
Trelawney would just look at him. Oh, but it is going to happen. I've seen it.
Yeah, that's what no, not good. I also don't think Snape would go there.
No, you don't think so?
No.
Why?
Her prophecy is the reason why Lily died. I don't think he'd go there. Too much trauma.
I mean, yeah, it's not her fault.
I don't think Snape would see it that way.
Maybe he needs another reading. A full body reading.
Why are you hurting me like this with these thoughts and phrases?
I'm just saying.
No, that's too...
Alright, how about Snape and Umbridge?
No!
Why not?
Ew! That's why not. Just ew! Ew!
They're both slime lords.
No! Umbridge shouldn't date any human being. At all. Although I think Filch was into it. I think Filch would be into it.
Well, yeah.
So I think Umbridge is too old for
There's
Snape.
some weird stuff going on there.
Yeah.
gave him that whip and everything. No.
Snape and Umbridge would just punish each other. I mean, no kink shaming. Trelawney and Xenophilius. I actually don't hate that.
Trelawney and Xenophilius.
Yeah, they're both out there enough that
that actually would.
I think they.
Yeah, that's actually probably one of the best relationships I could picture.
That could be okay.
Yeah,
but I don't know if Xenophilius is over Luna's mom.
That would be like a great, like 90s movie.
Trelawney and Xenophilius?
Yeah, and then Luna dealing with this new woman. You're not my mother.
Ah, but I will be, child. I have seen it. Let me see your cup.
Alright, but first, can you go grab me that big horn on the wall there? I'm just gonna step outside.
I think Zeno would want someone a bit more stable at this point. Someone to anchor him from the craziness that he's gone through.
Xenophilius and McGonagall.
That's too stable.
I don't know. Opposites attract.
Dan Williams just no. Just no. No.
Why?
McGonagall
is stable.
McGonagall couldn't even accept him as a person. She can't even accept that divination is a legit branch of magic.
Okay. Xenophilius doesn't believe in divination.
She would walk into his house and wouldn't even be able to handle being in his house for 5 minutes before leaving.
So they can move into her house.
McGonagall did have a love interest, and it ended very tragically. She was scarred from it and never got into a relationship again.
I was going to say, there's actually a Pottermore, like, autobiography of her.
Oh, goodness, Lola, we gotta readjust a little bit.
I mean,
maybe she'd
they
like
would probably
his,
be like smoke buddies, but I don't know if they could date.
Maybe she'd like his dirigible plums.
Gross.
I'm telling you, Sprout and Madam Hooch, that's viable. Are you leaving? I'm so sorry you're leaving. Should we read another chapter?
Yeah.
We can continue on with this silly discussion.
I was gonna say, gonna be coming out of the greenhouses, the both of them. Dumbledore's just gonna be like, "Oh, were you planting mandrakes in there?" Yes, that's what we were doing.
Let's just get through Christmas, shall we? At the very least. Dan, Diagon Alley blew up.
Remus felt that he was being a pussy and didn't do anything, and his friends told him, "You stop thinking like that. We can't take depressed Lupin anymore. Man up." And Lupin was like, "Fair." So he manned up, and then he cuddled with Sirius, and everyone is happy and safe.
Yep, that was it.
Oh, and Frank Longbottom saved James and Lily.
Yep, Frank Longbottom saved James and Lily.
Ah, Frank.
Lupin told Sirius he thought he smelled Regulus there.
Time to take a shower, Reg.
Yeah. Yes, Frank. Frank was there. I wonder if the other Auror, the Lady Auror, was Alice. There was another Auror there who was a lady. We didn't get her name, but I wonder if it was Alice.
Oh, maybe. Who was Alice?
Neville's mom.
Oh.
Frank and Alice.
So I was like confused.
Chapter 126. 7th Year. Christmas, Part 3. Monday, 2nd of January 1978. The next week and a half was one of the darkest Remus could remember. When Mrs. Potter finally arrived home the day after the attack, she was white and drawn and hugged her family so tight as if she would never see them again. "About 50 dead or so, I've heard," she said solemnly. "I was mostly triage, though. Hundreds wounded." Any of us?" Mr. Potter asked. He looked as though he hadn't slept in hours, and indeed, as far as Remus knew, he hadn't been to bed either. Euphemia nodded, closing her eyes. "Later," she said, casting a glance at the boys. James looked indignant. "We can hear it," he said. "We're of age, and we were there when it happened." "Yes, I know you were!" Mrs. Potter shouted, her voice shrill. James's mouth snapped shut, and he looked down, ashamed. Mrs. Potter got up. "I'm going for a lie-down." She left the room, and the men sat in silence. "Sorry, Dad," James mumbled. "It's all right." Fleamont removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "We're all upset. Your mother and I need you boys to listen and do as you're told until it's time to go back to school. You understand?" They all nodded reluctantly, and Remus saw the muscles in Sirius's jaw tighten. It was a mark of his respect for Mr. Potter that he did not protest. "Now," Fleamont continued, "this house is going to be very busy for the next few days, and you're going to see a lot of very important people doing very important work. Do not ask too many questions, and do not make nuisances of yourselves." "Can't we help?"
Gonna make it?
"Yeah, I hope so." "Can't we help?" James asked earnestly. "Yes," Fleamont nodded. "By being gracious hosts and minding your mother." "Yes, Dad." James sighed, looked down again, obviously disappointed. "James," Fleamont began, reaching over to touch his son's arm. Remus and Sirius took that as their cue to clear the table and waited round the kitchen, half-heartedly helping Gully do the washing up. "I don't see what all the fuss is about," Sirius grumbled, elbow deep in soap suds. "If they knew half the things we were capable of, we can actually help." "We'll have our chance," Remus replied, staring out of the window as he dried the plates. The garden was very dark, and a chill mist hung in the air, making it difficult to see much beyond the patio wall. He could just make out James's Quidditch hoops on the lawn and the very dim waning moon. He didn't like not being able to see very far. It made him uneasy. "That's all right for you to say," Sirius was still complaining. "You already proved yourself." "What?" Remus glanced up at him, confused and momentarily distracted from the window. "That werewolf you met last year. You've already faced the enemy and shown Dumbledore he can trust you." "I don't think I explained that properly, if that's what you think," Remus said. "Livia It wasn't about the war." "Dumbledore thinks it was. Moody does. They talk about the werewolves all the time, how useful you'll be trying to convince the dark creatures not to join you-know-who." "Can we talk about something else?" "Fine." They talked about nothing. They did the dishes in complete silence. Remus stared out the window into the blackness of the Potter's grounds and looked for something. Finally, James came in just as they finished putting away the last of the china. "All right, mate?" Sirius asked cheerfully. "Yeah," James shrugged, looking somehow wiser, older. "Just dad stuff, you know." Sirius and Remus glanced at each other, and Remus knew they were both experiencing the same sour envy. What did it mean to have a father like Fleamont Potter? To have one at all? I said I'd give Lily a ring if you two fancied a walk into the village." "Why not?" Sirius said, leaving the dish rag over the tap. "Oh, Moony, Dad said to give you this." James handed over a small scroll of paper. Remus opened it quickly, glancing over the neat name and address written there. James cocked his head, curious. "What is it?" Oh, nothing. A book I was asking about. Remus stuffed it in his pocket. Come on, calls are cheaper after 6. James had finally learnt how to use the phone box unaided, so there was nothing for Remus to do but lean against the fence next to Sirius, waiting. He rolled cigarettes to pass the time. He'd cut the fingers off his gloves back in November for explicitly this purpose. I didn't mean you, Sirius said quietly, when I said dark creatures. I know you didn't. Remus lit the Riesler, then smoothed it down. He handed the completed cigarette to Sirius, who took it and put it behind his ear. Remus began another one. Gotta teach me how to do that one day, Sirius murmured, watching him appreciatively. I bet we could work out a spell to do it instantly. Probably, Remus sighed, lining up tobacco. But I like doing it this way. Fair enough. They were quiet again. Remus finished his second one and held it between his thumb and forefinger, wondering whether or not to smoke it. Mrs. Potter didn't like the smell of them, and he hated to add to her troubles. But on the other hand, he could really use something to calm his nerves. Sirius could too, if the constant tapping of his leg was anything to go by. He was chewing his fingernails too. Remus lit the cigarette with a snap of his fingers and inhaled. Sirius followed suit. His legs stilled. I am, though, Remus said on exhale. What? A dark creature, like you said. Moony, no. Yep. Remus nodded, gazing out at the fields before them and the motorway behind that. So when you talk about wanting to prove yourself, I do understand what you mean. People trust werewolves just as much as they trust the disgraced sons of dark wizards. I do know. I didn't mean to act like you're the only one with a stake in this war. Yeah, like that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I know, Remus smiled, looking at him finally. I'm sorry about Regulus. Well, Sirius scuffed his feet in the gravel. I already knew pretty much. Of course he was there. I'm going to work so hard on this Slytherin prank when we get back to school. It'll be my best work. Sirius laughed, an honest, abandoned noise, throwing his head back. Alright. Godric Mooney, he grinned broadly. When you say things like that, it really makes me want to snog your face off. Ah, Remus snorted. He shot a look at James inside the red phone box, jabbering away with a huge smile on his face. Maybe not just yet. Sirius looked mournful again. I'm gonna tell him. Just not with all this bad stuff going on, you know? I know, Remus nodded. He did. He didn't want Sirius to know it, but the idea of James finally finding out about them was much scarier than he had prepared himself for. Why shake everyone up again? Remus, if I ask you something, will you tell me the truth? Okay. His stomach clenched involuntarily, but he steeled himself. What was that note from James's dad? It wasn't a book title, was it? No, Remus agreed. It wasn't. He reached inside his pocket and pulled it out, thumbing the soft, thick parchment for a moment before handing it over to Sirius. Sirius unfolded it quickly and looked down. Hope Jenkins, he read, a crease in his brow. What does that mean? It's a name, Remus said quickly. My mother's name. And an address. Oh, Sirius breathed, rereading it, still frowning. Your mother? He said the word as if he'd never even considered the possibility that Remus had such a thing. Yeah. Remus took the parchment back, shoving it back into his pocket. I know we said we would talk about anything but mothers, but, well, Dumbledore gave me a letter she'd written me, back after Lyle died. She said I could try to find her when I was of age, so Mr. Potter found her, I suppose. What are you going to do with it? Write to her? Yeah, I think I will. Sirius moved his hand on the fence, subtly brushing Remus's fingers. Well, I hope you find her.
Ooh, this will be an interesting story arc. What do you think his mom's gonna be like?
I don't know. Mr. Potter had been right. For the next few days, the house was busier than Remus had seen it since the Christmas party of 73. Of course, there was very little cheer. These were the people closest to Dumbledore. Many of them were working for the Ministry, but all of them were loyal to him before anything else. They were the front line in the war effort. Some of them were familiar faces. Moody, of course, who usually spared the time to cast a gruff nod at the three teenage boys who were now spending their days watching the fireplace for new arrivals. There was Frank Longbottom himself, just as pleasant and good-natured as Remus remembered. He came through most often with his girlfriend Alice, the young woman who'd ushered Sirius and Remus back on the day of the attack. The Pruitt twins were another surprise. James and Sirius were falling all over themselves to catch up with them and share every nefarious act they'd committed at Hogwarts since the older boy's departure. They'd both grown very handsome, broad-shouldered, and rough around the edges from a few adventures, but they still had the same easy tempers and wicked sense of humour. Often they brought their red-haired sister and her equally flame-haired husband. All these guests only stopped to chat for a few moments to James, Remus, and Sirius before vanishing into Mr. Potter's study, or else heading out into the kitchen to apparate. Apparently Moody had placed a charm over the Potter's house, making it not only unplottable, but impossible to place an apparition trace on. As a consequence, the living room and entrance hall began to feel very much like platform 9 3/4. In the evenings, Mrs. Potter would come home, looking warm and determined. She would still have a smile for everyone and be ready to host whoever was in the house for supper. She was never short of spectacular. The night before the boys were expected to return to Hogwarts, Moody, Frank, and Alice were joining them for dinner. Beef stew with dumplings. They were having a very pleasant evening. Frank and Remus were having a very intense discussion about defensive charms, and Alice and the boys, including Fleamont, were arguing over which Quidditch team was going to win the league. To Remus's left, Moody leaned over to address Mrs. Potter and whispered, "I hear Ferox is getting out tomorrow." "Getting out?" Remus spun round, cutting Frank off mid-flow. "Getting out of where?" Moody raised an eyebrow, making his eerie magical eye bulge grotesquely. "Bloody good hearing you've got, lad. Make a good orer." Remus shook his head impatiently. "Professor Ferox?" "Yes, dear," Euphemia explained calmly. "Leo Ferox was injured in the attack on Diagon Alley. He's now stable and will be going to stay with his grandmother for a while to recuperate fully. I'm sorry, I quite forgot he taught at Hogwarts. Did you know him well?" "Sort of. He was my favourite teacher," Remus said, his insides churning. "Is he... What happened? Was he in one of the shops?" "He was on the ground in the battle with us," Frank said. "He was in the thick of it. You couldn't fault his technique. He was firing spells better than anyone. But we all get unlucky sometimes." "But will he be all right?" Remus put his fork down now. He wasn't going to eat anymore. "With proper rest," Mrs. Potter nodded, smiling wanly. All of the terror Remus had been trying to ignore for the past few days came crashing back. He gripped the seat of his chair and stared at his plate and thought about Ferox lying unconscious in the rubble. A good strong man like that, shot down. Remus felt a stab of angry defiance in his gut, sharpening his focus. He was going to do better no matter what it took. He was going to be quicker, braver. The next time the battle came to him, he would be ready.
Ferox. Think he's gonna make it? Maybe not. Maybe that's why he's not in the main story.
I think he's gonna bite it.
Yeah.
At some point, I think he's gonna bite it.
Maybe Lupin will go crazy as a werewolf and like he's the one who killed him or something.
Wow, that'd be terrible.
That would be very tragic, but
good.
Yeah.
Good story.
Yeah. Terrible story, but good.
There's just a lot going on in the chat right now.
I know, I'm trying to get caught up. Yeah, Snape didn't invent the potion. He was just the only one talented enough to actually make it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he definitely didn't invent it.
And
yeah, it was Belby's uncle. Yes. Because Slughorn, Dan's right. Slughorn brings Belby in to the train car or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry and Ginny, or they're all sitting there, and Slughorn says, like, your uncle invented the Wolfsbane potion. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Lupin better be thanking him.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, if it wasn't for Snape, he wouldn't be getting that shit.
I'm really surprised that Belby's father didn't just, or grandfather didn't, like, market that. Just sell it. You know how much money he'd make?
Maybe it's like the 12 uses of dragon's blood. It was a contribution for the betterment of wizard kind.
But it's so hard to make. Like, it would probably be better if it was mass produced. So, yeah, you'd kind of be selling out of it, but you need someone as talented as Snape to make it for you. Not everyone can make it.
Well, right.
Your nail is just so...
But maybe he thought like Nikola Tesla and was just like, the world deserves this.
I agree. I mean, it's a recipe, You can buy lemonade. Doesn't mean that
it's gonna be
can't
good.
make lemonade at home.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
I
feel like the betterment would have been to just mass produce it. That way, Lupin could just go down to the corner store and buy a liter of Wolfsbane potion.
Maybe the market is not big enough.
I don't know.
Maybe maybe the cost of mass manufacturing, not enough werewolves would buy it.
Greyback's been busy, though.
Greyback doesn't wanna... He, like, brainwashes them into joining his pack.
But maybe if they had an alternative, some of them wouldn't.
But no one cares about werewolves. Slughorn's Potions book is evidence to there being different qualities of potions. Yep.
Hi, Andre. Yeah. I think... I don't know. I mean, they could have even hired Greyback on. Like, look, Greyback, we're going to pay you under the table. We need more werewolves to buy this product. Do what you do.
Yeah, and then he'd be like, can I bite children?
It's big business. They don't care. As long as they're buying Wolfsbane potion.
That also had to be very difficult to figure out. You can only test your potion for werewolves when it's on full moon.
That's true. You only get one shot a month. Well, 2 every once in a blue moon.
See what you did there. But yeah, how many times did that guy have to make that and fail at it?
Right? What were the side effects?
Jesus, yeah, and how did he not get bitten? Like, maybe he paid maybe he paid werewolves a ridiculous amount of money to be test subjects.
Maybe Greyback was one of his test subjects. That's why Greyback retains some of his conscious thoughts while he's in the wolf form.
I don't think that's it. I think that's giving Greyback an out for being such a dirtball and gross.
Well, I'm saying he's a dirtball and he's gross, but that's why he can control what he does. He just goes after the children. Instead of, just kind of wolfish, attack everyone.
I would think pretty sure it's stated in the novels that Greyback is that way because he enjoys being the wolf.
Oh, okay.
He enjoys being that.
That's fair.
And that's why he never cuts his nails.
I mean, if I could be conscious, I mean, it would be kind of cool to be a wolf once a month. As long as you don't have the malicious thoughts of biting people.
Girl on the right, you're so pretty. Thank you. Am I on the right?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe it was me.
Slughorn is an example of a good Slytherin. Yes, he is. Slughorn is a great Slytherin. I feel like the cost of human life should be worth it to the Ministry to provide it to those who need it, but what do I know? Greyback only retains his will because he is always evil. I mean, the wolf wants to destroy, right?
Maybe it's because
that's what Greyback wants.
That's what I mean. Maybe it's because
they want the same thing.
The wolf and Greyback kind of have an understanding.
Yeah, they want the same thing. And Greyback is definitely got this whole metaphor for pedophilia thing going on with the kids. That's really disgusting. I don't think that has anything to do with Wolfsbane Potion.
No, I'm not saying he'd be a good guy. I'm just saying the fact that he can retain his conscious self.
It took a lot to keep Remus safe, partly Dumbledore, partly because his father was heavily involved in the Ministry. That's also true. I mean, if Lupin's father wasn't such an important Ministry official, would Lupin have gotten the treatment that he did to like get to go to Hogwarts and all that stuff? What if he was just some Muggle-born kid, like with no family name?
Well, yeah, just some Muggle-born. Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, I think Lupin is lucky.
I think. Well, I mean, as long as isn't it like some pen and notebook, like the name just appears on it at Hogwarts when someone's accepted into Hogwarts?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if their name appeared, Dumbledore would still help them out no matter what.
Well, Dumbledore would, yeah, of course. But like,
I feel like the Ministry would probably do something just because you can't have a wild werewolf running around.
Greyback would be a very interesting spin-off character, just like the Joker. Maybe there are some things that made him into his evil guy.
That would be interesting to see.
The Greyback story?
Yeah. I heard a rumor that Joker 2 is going to be a musical.
I heard that too. I heard that they're thinking about
it's just a lie.
Well, I also heard the rumor that they're gonna try to get Lady Gaga to play Harley Quinn.
She might do all right, actually. I could see it.
I could see it. Wait, can Muggles be bit by a werewolf?
Yes. Do Muggles? Here's the question though: do Muggles react differently?
No. Yeah, I think they do. I think they talk. I think we've talked about this before. That wizards who get bit by werewolves become werewolves, but I think Muggles that get bit by werewolves, like they die or something. They don't. It doesn't have the same. Or they just get
bit. Anticlimactic. I thought it was gonna be something crazy. They die. They're dead.
Like, I don't think they become werewolves. I think it's a wizard specific thing.
Body can't handle the magic.
Yeah.
Overload.
Yeah, it's magic. It's a magic like ailment.
I thought maybe they just permanently become wolves or something.
Oh, I don't remember that part. I just. And what happens to them, she says.
I'd like to think that when a Muggle gets bit by a werewolf, they just turn into a wolf. And they're permanently stuck in that form. You gonna look it up?
I'll Google it real quick.
I mean, would make sense. Because, wizards can have control over the magic. Muggles have no control. It's only during the full moon when the wolf's magic is the greatest can it overcome the wizard's magic, a restraint. Is there anything on it?
Yeah, but I want to get a I mean, according to the...
Hey, Maddie. Welcome.
Muggles can become werewolves, but I think it is more likely that they would either die from the wound or be unaffected, but wizards definitely become werewolves.
Oh, okay. So, as a muggle, we either die or we're good.
This says, another year has ended and Slytherin has again won the House Cup, but there are a few last-minute points to be awarded. For example, Harry Potter straight up killed Professor Quirrell, and I am deeply afraid that I will be next. 1,000 points to Gryffindor.
That is, you gotta feel bad for a lot of the other houses. It's like every year they're in the lead. Gotta think
Slytherin.
by third or fourth year they're just like, how's Harry gonna win it this year? We're in the lead by 300 points. We can't lose. Harry Potter just killed a basilisk. Son of a bitch.
See, the Slytherins have a reason to have beef. I'm just saying. How about this one? You murdered my cat? No, no. If I may, Professor, I think perhaps Harry Potter was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Good job, Potter. That cat was more annoying than your father.
Impossible. Snape would never side with Harry. Ever.
Harry Potter was such a nerd, was such a jock, star player of the sports ball, hated history of magic, just like shooting his magic gun. He's such a bro. He's a trust fund jock that became a cop who married his high school sweetheart.
My God, he really was.
Uh,
Oh man, it would be funny to see like a fanfic of Harry and Ron in college. It's like frat boys.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I also thought it was this one. Apparently, J.K. Rowling walked onto the set of one of the Harry Potter films and saw Daniel Radcliffe looking very beat up. She thought his makeup was real and asked, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" And he turned around and looked at her and said, "As if you don't know."
That's pretty good. That's great.
She thought I was playing the clip from the movie.
Dang.
Dang, nice. This one is types of headaches, migraine, hypertension, stress. Some teenagers found your Horcruxes.
Yeah, that's true. Not just his high school sweetheart, but his best friend's sister.
Let me get this straight. You think Snape bullying kids is funny? I do, and I'm tired of pretending that it's not.
You're a horrible person. Hey, Corey.
Also, apparently, Robin Williams was interested in playing either Hagrid or Lupin, but they said they needed an entirely British cast.
God damn it, he would have been a great Lupin. Are you kidding me?
He would have been a great Lupin.
No, he should have played Umbridge. I would have paid all my money to see Robin Williams as Umbridge. Miss Doubtfire returns in Harry Potter.
What is this?
Where are you reading now?
This one says, without looking at anything up, tell me everything you know about the Harry Potter story before we start watching the movies. I'm curious about what you think you know about the series. Someone who's never read the books or seen the movies. And they said...
Oh, there's an answer?
There,
Okay.
yeah, the person said, let's see. Harry Potter wants to kill Voldemort out of revenge for killing his parents. His parents aren't dead. Big plot twist. And they go on silly adventures like the scary bathroom scene with that ghost girl. Then they said, is that it? Yeah, pretty much. I have no idea what they do for all 7 movies. Also, I think something's up with Harry Potter's dad. I don't know, though. Like, something weird.
Oh, man. Robin Williams is Peeves. If you're going to put Peeves in the movie, that's who you need to cast. Man, now I'm sad. I miss Robin Williams.
I'm sorry.
That man was one of the greats.
I'm sorry I made this sad for everyone now.
Did he ever make a bad movie? I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure there's not a movie of his that I've ever watched and I was like, I'm not liking this.
There must have been a dud or two in there that maybe I just hadn't seen. This has to be the subreddit. Yeah, it was Reddit. I looked up one thing and then
You got in the Reddit rabbit hole.
Yeah, stuff just started happening. I apologize. I think we have time for one more chapter, though.
Oh, okay.
Death to Smoochie was terrible. I loved Death to Smoochie, Dan. I thought that movie was fucking hilarious.
I don't remember the movie. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't that memorable either.
Friends come in all sizes, that's a fact, it's true. All the colors of the rainbow from mauve to blue.
There's
Rainbow Randolph is the king. La 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 la.
I forgot what I was gonna say now. What's the one where the guy's like a savant and he's working as a janitor? Good Will Hunting. There's a scene in that where he's talking to him and Robin Williams is the therapist and he starts telling him the story about his like ex-wife and like
his wife that died and she farted in the bed.
Yeah. That was all improvised. And all the laughing was real. Like real.
That's awesome.
No one was expecting that. And apparently if you listen you can hear like the cameramen and the crew start laughing in the background.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
There's like so many scenes, I guess, Robin Williams just like improvised.
He did a lot of it. Yeah, I know. That whole beginning scene in Aladdin.
Yeah.
Just made shit up. He was just going and going, and they just took what they could actually use that was kid friendly, I think.
Oh man, I mean, when he was on Whose Line Is It Anyways?
One of the best episodes.
My favorite episode ever.
Dan, watch Death to Smoochie and then judge.
Good Will Hunting is a great movie.
Good Will Hunting is one of the greatest movies ever. You should watch it.
We'll see you later, Amber.
Yeah, see you later.
Dropping by.
Let's go ahead and get one more chapter out.
Okay.
Because we gotta finish this fan fiction, man. We are crawling along.
It is a long one.
We still have over 50 chapters left to read.
Yeah, that's quite
so we gotta let's plug away. I'm not answering that question, Dan. Saw what you did there. Chapter 127. 7th year. Responsibilities.
I saw what he did too.
Yeah. Monday, 9th of January, 1978. Remus wrote 3 letters on his last night before school that Christmas break. 2 would need a Muggle stamp and were to be posted in the Red Royal Mail pillar box at the end of the road before they left for King's Cross. The second could wait till he got to Hogwarts and could use one of the school owls. The first was to Hope. Dear Miss Jenkins, my name is Remus Lupin. My father was Lyle Lupin, and I believe I am your son. I'm now 17 years old. I was given a letter written by you in 1965. I hope that you do not mind my writing to you. If you would like to write back, I would like that very much. Yours sincerely, Remus John Lupin. He thought he'd better sign off with his full name, though he'd be very surprised if there was another Remus Lupin living in Britain. He also thought it was best to keep it short and to the point. She would appreciate that, maybe, if she chose to ignore the letter. The second letter was to Grant. Dear Grant, hope you had a nice Christmas. I wish I could have come to visit, but I stayed with my friend's family and it's hard to get away. I hope you're all right. How's the job going? Have you saved up for a flat yet? I'll have to start thinking about that soon. It's my last term of school ever, and by June I'll be living in the real world. I hope I can see you then. Please write back as soon as you can and let me know how you're doing. Yours, Remus. He didn't want to put yours sincerely because it seemed silly and over-formal. He also didn't want to put love because that seemed very extreme. So in the end, yours seemed the simplest and most honest way to put it. So it's just the Ferox letter still to post then? Sirius asked as they took their seat in the usual carriage on the Hogwarts Express. They were completely alone. Peter had gone in search of Dorcas, who'd apparently written him a very steamy letter over Christmas break, while James and Lily made a beeline for the prefect's carriage. Just the Ferox one, Remus nodded, patting his pocket. Sirius sat on the same bench as him, reclining back and stretching his legs out in Remus's lap, arms folded behind his head. Remus snorted indulgently. Make yourself comfortable, why don't you? Don't mind if I do. Sirius grinned wickedly. So, he said, which letter are you most looking forward to getting a reply from? Which reply am I most looking forward to? Remus quirked an eyebrow dryly. You mean between my battle-wounded ex-teacher, my young offender ex-boyfriend, or the mother who abandoned me? Well, when you put it like that, Sirius tutted. Honestly, the amount of stuff you keep back. Would you rather I was whinging all the time? Remus sighed, opening the book he'd brought for the journey on top of Sirius's legs. No, Sirius mused, staring up at the carriage ceiling thoughtfully. But, I mean, if you didn't have me to talk to about all this stuff, I'd be worried your head would explode. It would not explode, thank you very much. Remus slapped his knee lightly with the orange-covered penguin paperback. You're so dramatic. I've coped perfectly well before you decided to involve yourself. How? Well, Remus chewed his lip. You'll think it's stupid. What? I make lists in my head, benefits and losses, and sometimes I have pretend conversations, to help me work through a problem. Bloody hell, Mooney, Sirius sat up spluttering. You complete nutter. Remus laughed. Yeah, all right, maybe a bit mental. Sirius slid his feet off Remus's lap and sidled up to him on the seat. Ever had an imaginary conversation with me? No, Remus replied, closing his eyes as he felt Sirius's breath on his neck. I only have imaginary conversations with sensible people. Well, maybe that's where you're going wrong. Sirius began to kiss Remus, very lightly behind the earlobe. Remus squirmed, the book dropped to the carriage floor. Suddenly the door began to rattle open, and giggles could be heard in the corridor. Sirius and Remus leapt apart just as Marlene and another girl stumbled inside. Oh! Marlene's eyes widened in surprise, cheeks turning pink. Thought this carriage was empty. Nope. Sirius leaned back, looking amused. He was eyeing Marlene with a very wicked glint in his eye. He winked at the girl coming in behind her, a tall, dark-haired 6-year Remus thought he vaguely recognized. Patel? Sirius nodded. Oh, God, Remus thought to himself. Could Sirius possibly have old conquests even I don't know about? Remus, have you met Yasmin? 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 Marlene asked, taking a seat opposite him. She's a new keeper. Oh, right, hiya, Remus nodded, giving an awkward wave. No, Mary? Sirius was raising an eyebrow at Marlene as if he knew something. Remus was just confused and a bit flustered. No, Mary, Yasmin answered with a similar smirk. She's talking to one of the Ravenclaw prefects, Mary said quickly. It's not as if we're deliberately avoiding her or anything. Marlene looked. Was she blushing? Why was everyone acting so oddly? Remus shifted in his seat, noting the weird atmosphere. Sirius said, still smiling at Marlene smugly. What are you two up to, then? Yasmin tutted and looked him dead in the eye with a wry smile of her own. Nothing. What are you two up to? She raised a suggestive eyebrow, and Remus nearly leapt up with a shock. She knew. Just who was this Yasmin person, anyway? Nothing. Sirius sat up straight. Well then, Marlene shrugged, her face clearing as she settled back in her seat, looking like she'd just won a particularly rewarding game of chess. We'll leave it at that then. Shall we? Fine. Sirius leaned back too, folding his arms. Yasmin giggled and Remus just scratched his head. What are we leaving where? He asked Sirius later that evening. They were making their way slowly up to the Owlery before curfew. He'd eaten a lot at dinner and was somewhat regretting it now. Moony, really? Sirius laughed. Someone as observant of you hasn't noticed anything different about Marlene lately? I don't know what you're talking about, he panted, struggling as always with the spiral staircase. Remus didn't want to admit that if he was observant, it was only Sirius he was observing. He typically regarded the girl as a complete mystery and rarely had any idea what was going on with them. The girls as a complete mystery, and rarely had any idea what was going on with them unless they explicitly told him. Lily and Mary did this more often than Marlene, who'd always been as private as he was. Oh, come on, Moony, Sirius laughed. Marlene and Yaz, don't tell me you didn't see. They were all over each other before they realised the carriage wasn't empty. Remus stopped, partly because he needed a moment to catch his breath, partly because he couldn't believe what Sirius was saying. You mean Marlene is... Yep. And Yasmin? Yep. Bloody hell. Yep. Sirius's eyes were glittering mischievously. Can't believe you hadn't figured it out already. Well, Remus huffed. They were nearly at the top now. I'm pretty impressed that you did, seeing as you apparently had no idea about me after we'd been shagging for a year. It wasn't the whole year, Sirius replied defensively, reaching the top and looking around furtively before continuing into the empty room. Remus came in behind him and looked for an appropriate owl. It wasn't a long journey, he didn't think. He seemed to remember Ferox telling him that his grandmother lived in Liverpool. It had been a difficult letter to write, but necessary, considering that they had last parted on difficult terms. He simply hoped Ferox was well and added in a few inconsequential details about his NEWT preparation. So if Marlene knows, Remus said thoughtfully, tying the letter to his chosen owl's leg. Yeah, I know. James next, Sirius sighed. I don't mean to keep bringing it up, Remus said apologetically, setting the owl free to fly out of the nearest window. He watched it go. No, I promised I would do it. Sirius threw up his hands. Anyway, this term's going to be enough of a nightmare with NEWTs and the war. Rather not have anything else to worry about. Are you nervous? Shitting myself. Lovely. Remus rolled his eyes. Can I help? Not if you're going to suggest me having an imaginary conversation with Prongs. Don't see why not, Remus shrugged. Prongs is easy to do. Nice and predictable. Unlike some, Sirius murmured. Anyway, it's not what he'll say. It's not what he'll say that I'm worried about. I know what he'll say. It'll be like what it was like when you, came out? Remus prompted helpfully. Sirius nodded bashfully. I know he'll be his usual righteous self. I'm more worried about the stuff he doesn't say. Well, Remus said, turning away from the window, there's nothing you can do about that. Black! Black! Oi! Padfoot! Sirius's pocket began shouting at him. Sirius grinned, fishing out his compact mirror and opening it. Speak up, speak of the devil. Where are you, Tosser? James' voice boomed out of the mirror. Owlery. Moony with you? Yep. Dumbledore wants him. Right now? Sirius glanced up at Remus, whose stomach sank. This was never good. 1 hour later. Remus was not surprised to find all 3 Marauders, and Lily, who by this point might as well have had her own nickname and access to the map anyway, waiting outside of Dumbledore's office for him. He was grateful. He was in such a state that if he'd got to walk back to the tower alone, he'd probably got lost. "Well?" Sirius asked, eager as always to be the first to know. Said Remus. "Come on," Lily said, taking his arm gently. "You don't have to tell us. We just want to know that you're all right." "Of course he has to tell us," Sirius frowned. Remus gave him a warning glance. "Can we go somewhere a bit more private? Not the common room?" "Dorm room?" Peter suggested. "Yeah," Remus nodded. He wouldn't speak to them until they got there, and used the time to work out exactly how he was going to explain without hurting at least Sirius's feelings, never mind wounding James's pride. Dumbledore hadn't said he couldn't tell anyone, only to exercise caution with who he told. "For your safety and theirs," the old man cautioned ominously. Remus still had serious doubts about whether or not Dumbledore was all that concerned for his safety personally, but kept his mouth shut. You'd be careful what you said in Remus's position. Finally, they all piled into the Marauders' dorm room, even Lily, which was a bit weird, especially when she sat herself down on James's bed, as if she'd done it 100 times before. Remus sat on the lid of his trunk. Hadn't even had time to unpack yet. "So," Sirius asked again, impatient, leaning against the bedpost, "what did Dumbledore want?" "He gave me an assignment." Remus stared at the worn-out rug as he said this, not meeting anyone's eyes. He still couldn't quite believe it himself. "He what?" James surprised Remus by speaking first. "He gave you, not any of us." "James," Lily said sharply, touching her boyfriend's arm, "it's obviously something that Remus is best suited for." "Werewolves," Sirius said. Remus looked up and met his eye. He looked upset, so Remus smiled. "Yeah, done it before, haven't I?" "You've done—" Lily started, then shook her head as if thinking better of it. "What does he need from you? Why now?" "They think there's one in Hogsmeade," Remus explained slowly. "The centaurs told him, or something." He was foggy on those details, because when Dumbledore had been explaining it, Remus had been trying very, very hard not to throw up from nerves. "Dumbledore wants me to, make my presence known next time I'm in town. See if it, takes the bait." "Bait?" Sirius practically shouted. "It's just an expression," Remus replied. "Not a great one," Peter said, nervously chewing his nails. "Sorry," Remus shrugged. "Don't worry about me. If there is a werewolf, and it's one of Greyback's, then I don't think I'm in any danger. He wants me to join him, remember?" "Yeah, I remember getting my own invitation to join that side," Sirius said with a shiver. Remus wished he hadn't brought that up. The last image he needed in his head right now was Sirius's unconscious body falling out of the Potter's fireplace on that horrible night. "It's not going to be like that," he said stiffly. "Nothing might happen at all. They might not even be here for me. And I was okay last time, wasn't I?" "Only because Ferox showed up." Sirius had forgotten that they weren't alone. He was gearing up for a proper row. "I know, but I'm of age now. I'll know what to expect." Remus tried to keep his own voice placid, hoping it would remind Sirius to keep himself in check. "It's so dangerous, Remus," Lily started. "I know that too, but I wasn't exactly given a choice," he snapped. She lowered her head and pursed her lips. He didn't mean to raise his voice to her, but he'd have to feel bad about it later. Just now it was too much to ask. "When?" Sirius asked, calmer than before. "Next Hogsmeade weekend." "That's in 2 weeks," James said. "After the next moon." "They're going to increase security in the village, obviously," Remus said, "after last time." "Okay, I'm going to need a few things explained here," Lily said, a deep crease in her forehead. "James, would you?" Remus pleaded. "I think I just want to go to bed." "Yes, of course," James nodded, springing into action at once. "We can talk about this tomorrow when everyone's had some time." "Thanks," Remus replied weakly, getting up, thinking to go and brush his teeth, looking forward to being alone in the bathroom for a few minutes to collect himself. "Moony," James said quickly as the others got up. I didn't mean that you shouldn't get an assignment or that you can't do it or anything. I know, Remus nodded, patting him on the shoulder. Believe me, if you or Sirius got to do it... If you or Sirius could do it instead, I wouldn't be Dumbledore's first pick. Suppose I just got lucky, eh? Inside the locked bathroom, he pressed his back against the door and tried to regulate his breathing. Now that his friends knew, it became that much more real to him. The thought that had been gnawing away at him since Dumbledore had first described the task finally sank in. You never actually thought he would ask this, Remus chastised himself. You never really believed you would be useful. Be careful what you wish for, loony Lupin. Dizzy and trembling, he now pressed his ear to the bathroom door. They'd all left the room. All but one. He wrenched the door open and without a second thought stood face to face with Sirius. You okay? Sirius asked, his cool blue eyes full of concern. Remus shook his head. No. Sirius reached out and Remus clung to him.
Things against Sirius now. No pun intended.
No puns intended.
Ah, my foot fell asleep. I got pins and needles right now.
You sure it wasn't from the story?
I'm sure.
Marlene's gay!
Yeah, who would have thought?
I called that.
You did? When?
Last time we read it, I thought to myself, she was getting all upset with Mary because she has a crush on Mary, I think. Oh. And Mary was like, dance with me. And she was like, no. No. It was exactly what Sirius and Lupin used to do.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't really paying attention, but now that you say it, yeah.
It was there.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Sirius, and now Marlene, like, she knows.
Well, yeah.
She knows.
Sirius needs to just man up and tell James.
Yep. It's just gotta tell Proms.
And it's James. It's like the nicest guy ever, his best friend. I mean,
what's it gonna do to him?
That's what I mean. You saw how, like, how he reacted when Remus came out.
But Sirius is his best friend.
That's true. But still. I guess it's hard, but at the same time, we know what type of person James is. And so should Sirius.
I don't...
I get he's nervous, but come on, man.
I don't think Peter knows about Sirius. I don't think Peter knows much about anything anymore.
No, he's just kind of there sometimes.
He's very much disappeared out of the story.
Showing his disconnect from the Marauders.
Yeah. I'm wondering what is going to happen that's going to have Sirius feel confident enough that Peter should be the secret keeper. Because right now he's just kind of off in Dorcas land.
I mean, I think it was, well, number one, Sirius definitely thought that anyone who wanted to find him would come to Sirius first. And I don't really know. Maybe just no one would suspect Peter because he was so insignificant.
Maybe.
I guess that would be my reasoning, at least.
Because Peter is so quiet and unassuming, he's not as powerful. I know, but... Well, I mean, Wormtail comes over still. Like, they're still friends, I guess.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen much of him lately. He's just very peripheral in the story.
But... Yeah, pretty much.
How did I end up with this?
I was moving around too much and I had a sleepy leg, so I couldn't have her laying on it. Had them pins and needles.
And now I have it back.
Went away pretty quick. Hate when I get that. It's the worst feeling ever. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's just less of a target. They underestimated him, though, because he was more powerful than they thought. he had the power to wipe these people away, the people who overlooked him for so long.
I was just looking at the next chapter.
Or maybe he'll just do it for Dorcas. Maybe Dorcas is super into the Death Eater lifestyle, and he's gonna be blinded by the booty.
That's the key.
Yes.
Dorcas. We found it.
Dorcas gonna be like, "Please, Peter, for me."
Maybe.
That's my assumption.
Dorcas is the root cause
Yeah,
of all
if
that.
we're going outside of the fact that he was just the character no one would really think of, I think that's it. Maybe he won't even be. Maybe he just broke up with Dorcas and was in a bad place or something.
How is Pettigrew not a Slytherin? I mean, he's the so Peter was a hat stall, I think.
Yeah, I think you said that right.
He was a hat stall.
He could have gone into Slytherin or Gryffindor, but he chose Gryffindor because, well, you know, all his friends were there.
Yeah, pretty much.
The friends that he killed.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, he was a hat stall. Hat stall is when you have the sorting hat on for 5 minutes and the hat doesn't make a decision. It can't choose.
It's got to be so awkward. You just gotta stand or just sit up there, just looking out at everyone while the sorting hat's on top of you. Just you're just there.
Hermione was almost a hat stall.
Ravenclaw or Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
But she wasn't a hat stall because it made the decision in under the 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But she sat there for a hot minute.
Yeah.
She was almost a hat stall.
I could definitely see her as a Ravenclaw.
I guess when you're not sorted, you have to work in the kitchens with the house elves. Oh, God.
Can the sorting hat just be like, there's been a mistake? Can we call his parents, come pick him up?
Sorry, Lola. Sorry, Lola.
I choose Hufflepuff. Shut up, kid. Seriously, why is this kid even here? Dumbledore! Dumbledore!
It's nice.
You think anyone's ever gotten... Well, no. Actually, I've read that there's never been a mistake about who is chosen for Hogwarts.
That's right. There is no mistake.
Before I even ask.
If you're there, you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And you're going in a house somewhere. 1 of 4, you're going.
Has anyone ever tried to sneak in, though?
Probably.
Like there's been a mistake. My child is supposed to go to Hogwarts, and just threw him on the train, and he gets there, and Sorting Hat's like, what are you doing here? You know you're not supposed to be here, right?
I'm sure it's happened.
And I will sort you into your house, because you're going home. Later, kid.
I think McGonagall would stop it before it got to the hat. She has the list of names.
That's true.
On the parchment.
Just the one scribbled on there in like crayon or something.
This is just so nice and so soft and so sweet. Dippy-doda, dippy-doda, dippy-doda.
Mundungus?
Mundungus Fletcher, I'm going to kill you!
And on that note, though, I'm tired.
Yeah, we got through the chapters. We read 3. We did good.
We didn't talk a lot about this last one, but
there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about either, though. Really,
no.
It was more.
It's setting up for some good stuff next time, though.
Yep, set up for Remus's mission and more pressure than ever for Sirius to come out of the closet. Because we still are dealing with the fact that Sirius is not out of the closet.
But Remus is dragging him out, kicking and screaming.
Yes.
Whether he likes it or not.
Yep.
You will tell everyone you're my boyfriend.
Yep.
Okay, so it's a little bit subtler. Still,
yeah,
you get it.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. We had a great time. We got through 3 more chapters, so we only have like
20 more to go. No,
No.
we have like 60 more to go.
We have.
Yeah, because there's 188.
Yep, and we just read
26.
We just read one.
Like, I'm sorry, I don't speak French.
The next chapter is 128.
So yeah, 20 or 60 more chapters.
Yep. And it's called Preparation.
H?
No.
Oh, okay. Mind went a little wonky there. Anyways, all right, we will...
I thought H2, I just didn't say it.
All right, we will see everyone Saturday.
Where we will be streaming what?
All the Young Dudes.
Oh.
Because tomorrow, for our patrons, we will be streaming...
Oh, that's right. Tomorrow evening...
Fantastic Beasts.
Yes. Do the announcement then. Announce to the people.
Oh, I thought you already put the announcement out.
No, I did. I only announced this tonight's stream. I didn't put an announcement for the other thing.
Okay, so because of YouTube's copyright things, we can't do a live stream of us watching Fantastic Beasts on here for obvious reasons. So we're going to do one on Patreon for our patrons tomorrow night.
Check the Discord for the time.
Yes.
And the Instagram. We will post the time on the Instagram and the Discord where
I
we
thought you already posted it, so we'll post that tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Okay.
Or you can hop on Patreon and watch Fantastic Beasts with us.
So on that
it's happening.
Take care, everyone. And
all right.
Have a good night.
Have a lovely evening, everybody.
Oh, and another thing, if you can't make the Patreon stream or anything like that, we'll post the highlights on the main channel and you can see the gist. Our reactions, the gist of it. So, okay.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
See some of you tomorrow.